Love, exciting and new.
Hello, Hannah Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever.
It's a love.
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships of Bermudan and British Registry.
Business taxes. Was stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on turbotax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise podcast. It's time for a movie deep dive with actor-comedian Mike Pusateri. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing good. You know, it's been a long time since I've potted with you.
Yeah. Well, we couldn't fit you under the luxury tax.
Right. I understand. Right. You traded me for two minor league prospects that no one's going to care about.
Right. So we ditched some dead weight, and then we could bring it back. I'm not even going to tell the guys which ones we ditched.
Okay. They'll read about it. They'll find out eventually.
They don't listen to this talk. They don't listen to this one anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so what have you been up to? You got anything you want to plug?
You know, I'm doing some silly I'm on TikTok now doing these silly little Ray Romano impressions. You know, doing some stand up here in town. Get ready to go back to LA though in a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So we have something to plug. Every Wednesday after the Tuesday night Hard Knocks on HBO, you and me and Praz are going to break down the episode.
Yes.
We figured it was a perfect use of your talent as someone who follows the Bears and has actually been on TV. And it's perfect. The Bears are a TV show.
Look at that.
5 weeks.
Worlds
so it
are
all
colliding.
fit together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been talking. Liev Schreiber is cutting our promo for us.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice. Good.
I actually have a Liev Schreiber story.
Let's hear it.
It's like 2 degrees of separation. So my best friend when I was a kid, they moved away, and he eventually ended up. He went to the University of Minnesota. I forget what he majored in, but he became a pilot, and he is a private airline pilot.
Okay.
So fancy rich people, when they, either buy shares in a plane or they just book a plane for a trip, well, you might get my friend. During COVID, early on in COVID, he flew Liev Schreiber and a party of people to the southern tip of South America so that they could then go to Antarctica. They were going on an Antarctic exhibition.
Okay.
And they got there, and the Antarctic part of the exhibition got canceled because of COVID. This was the early days of COVID.
Okay.
And they put new protocols in place where to get back on the plane, even to go home, they were just going to turn right around and come back. Everybody had to test, and they tested, and everybody tested negative. And they got on the plane, and they flew back, And a couple of days later, my friend got COVID. And when he checked in with his bosses, they said, "Oh yeah, you got it from Liev Schreiber." So he gave him COVID.
Wow.
And yeah. He also, I asked him a lot of questions about flying celebrities. And he said, for the most part, they're the best to fly, right? Like they're friendly and courteous. They're used to it. They do this all the time. It's not, it's not like driving a limo and you get and all of a sudden you get a prom party and they trash the limo.
Yeah.
And I go, well, yeah, but somebody's got to be a big asshole, right? Somebody.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to say, but it's John Bon Jovi.
Oh, really? Okay.
And he said you could ask any of the pilots, and they will tell you that John Bon Jovi is the biggest asshole to fly anymore.
Interesting.
So there you go.
Ah, okay. Okay. Liev was a nice guy, other than the...
Yes. He didn't know who he was flying that time. He didn't get the manifest till he got there. And while he was waiting for the manifest from the flight attendants, I don't know how many go on a plane. It depends on how many people I guess you have on the plane as to how many attendants you need.
Yeah.
He could hear the flight attendant bringing the thing up, but he could hear her talking to somebody. And he goes, "Oh, that's Liev Schreiber."
Wow.
Because when you hear the voice, you know who it is immediately.
Well, but his voice sounds so different, like in real life versus like the narrator voice on Hard Knocks.
He said he knew immediately. Oh, he did fly. This was kind of a surprise.
Okay.
He flew a sports guy to Hawaii and said that the guy was one of the coolest guys he'd ever flown. He actually got bored during the flight and asked if he could come up and sit in the cockpit and talk to, it was a long enough flight that he had to have a co-pilot, to the two pilots. It was Chris Berman.
Oh, really?
Said he just came up. He said he must have talked to us for 2 hours because he was on board sitting in the back. Can I come up and talk to you guys? Like, sure. So he sat up. He's asking him a million questions about, the plane and all that stuff. Yeah. And they got to ask him some sports questions.
Nice.
Quite the life. He's been to literally hundreds of countries. He flies people all over the world. So,
wow.
So there you go.
Very cool.
And that segues nicely into the fact that we are
our
doing...
time is up, so I hope you enjoyed the podcast.
We are doing Airport 77. That's the movie we're breaking down with Lee Grant. Oh, that's right. We're doing a different Lee Grant movie.
Yes, very good.
Yes.
Good pull right there. I like that.
We are doing Albert Brooks's 1991. I guess it's a cult classic because it's a movie that has endured and got good reviews, but nobody saw it when it first came out. It made $16 million.
Yeah, that's probably like a lot of Albert's movies in a way, but yeah.
Right. He's not exactly, they aren't built for big box office.
Yeah.
But they endure. The movie is, I think I said it, it's Defending Your Life.
Yes. One of the best. A classic movie.
Yes.
And it's timed well because, of course, there's a documentary out now about Albert Brooks's life called Defending My Life. Which he made, great documentary.
Yes, it's a great documentary which he made with his childhood best friend.
Yes,
Rob Reiner.
And
they went. Do you know this? Because you've seen the documentary, you probably knew anyway. And they went to high school, Beverly Hills High School, with.
Several. Well, Groucho Marx's daughter, I think, was one of the people. There were several people.
Yeah. Well, there's one other big headshot actor who was in their class. Richard Dreyfuss was in
Richard Dreyfuss. Okay, yes. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, it was quite a high school. Because I saw an in-person screening with them out in L.A. It was about the documentary. It was Judd Apatow interviewed Rob and Albert. So they told a bunch of stories, some of which I'll try to share here today. Yeah, I mean, Albert really had such a fun relationship with Carl Reiner, Rob's father. He was kind of like a second father to him because Albert's father died when Albert was pretty young. It's a legendary sort of death.
It's an amazing death.
Yeah, it really is. So I guess we should talk about it real quick. So his father, who went by the stage name of Park Your Carcass, was a comedian in show business. Did a lot of stuff, with radio, old time radio, and he was a friar. He was at the Friars Club. I think this was late 50s, and he did a set up at the Friars Club, and he killed in this set, and then he sat down and dropped dead at the table at the Friars Club. Crazy.
Right in the soup.
Yeah. Crazy thing.
Yeah, Park Your Carcass. His real name was Harry Einstein.
Yep.
People know Albert Brooks' brother, Bob Einstein, as Super Dave and
Yeah.
of course, Funkhauser. I was spacing on Funkhauser.
Yes, right.
And that, of course, means that Albert's real name is not Albert Brooks. It's Albert Einstein.
It's Albert Einstein, correct.
And he was born at a time when Harry and Albert's mom, that was a choice. Albert Einstein was famous. It's not like he named him Albert Einstein, and then 2 years later, all of a sudden, it's like, God, there's this crazy old, scientist who's inventing all that, who has the theory of relativity. No.
Right.
Einstein's old, so that had been around for a long time.
And it's funny, his parents passed on. I think Albert has two or three brothers. He passed on all Albert's the youngest, so he passed on all the other. He didn't stick any of his older brothers with the Albert name. That fell to Albert. So that was definitely a choice. You're wondering, okay, we want to do this, but maybe we'll do it with our third or fourth kid.
Now, Albert Einstein, of course, not famously when Joe Theismann was needed an example for a genius during a broadcast. Norman Einstein was the one that he referenced.
Okay.
But the best part of that, it turns out, he didn't misspeak. The smartest person in his high school class was named Norman Einstein.
And he assumed the rest of us would know that.
Yes. Apparently he said it, and then later, like, did you mean Albert? And he's like, what?
Who's Albert?
Albert. No, yeah. And he's like, nobody would have known who Norman Einstein is, would they? No, they wouldn't have, Joe.
No.
Good job. Good reference.
That guy was Mitch Kumstein, my roommate.
Yeah. He was just putting a night putting with the daughter of the dean. Yeah, so we can get to we can talk about the documentary too after we get done with this. It's an amazing documentary. That one, so when that documentary first came out, that was on Max and on HBO, and every Albert Brooks, his real name's Albert. Yeah. Every Albert Brooks movie was on Max, so you could plow through them, and I watched a bunch of them. And in preparation for this, I went back and this isn't on there anymore, and I had to buy it on Amazon Prime.
I had to buy it too.
It was $3.58 or whatever,
okay.
But still,
yeah,
it's like that was like 2 months ago, and it's gone already.
Killing us.
I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Not even free on Prime.
I know.
To rent on Prime.
Yeah.
It's like it's a 33-year-old movie, and you're making me rent it, and I'm renting it. So I guess somebody knew what they were doing.
I guess somebody figured it out between the two. See, I bought it, so I had to go $9.99 or whatever it was. So, yeah.
Oh, but you have it forever.
I do have it forever, so that's good.
Yeah. I have it for 24 more hours.
Yeah.
All right. So the basic conceit of Defending Your Life is there is a way station between this earthly plane of existence and whatever the next one is. And when you pass on, you are assigned basically a defense attorney, although you can't call them lawyers.
Right.
And somebody assigns a prosecutor, and they
universe.
pick
the nebulous universe does all this, yeah.
And they assign a number of moments from your life to review to decide whether you are worthy is not even the right word.
Whether you're allowed to move forward.
Yes, to move forward to the next.
Yes. Presumably, you could get a job as a citizen in Judgment City. Yes. Could be an option for you. Yes.
The movie starts with Albert opening a birthday present. His co-workers at his ad agency have given him a present, and he's opening it, and he's yucking it up with them.
He's doing a little stand-up routine, which I thought was kind of funny. Being a stand-up, he's doing a few jokes, a little stand-up.
And he gets and it's they bought him a CD player and some CDs. So kids, there was once a time when you had to physically buy your media.
That's funny because some of these things are dated in the movie like that, but there's a lot of other things that hold up very well, and other things that were kind of ahead of their time, which we'll get to in a second. But also, interesting, Albert he likes to play an advertising guy in a lot of his things. He was an advertising guy in Defending Your Life. He's an advertising guy in Lost in America. And now his brother Bob did start out his career in advertising before sort of moving into show business. So I wonder if that's fine.
It could be. Now, then we see him. He's going to pick up. He bought a brand new BMW.
Mm-hmm.
He needs a ride to go pick it up. And speaking of Beverly Hills High School, who is driving him to pick up his car?
Oh, I don't. Who is it?
Brenda and Brandon Walsh's dad from Beverly Hills 90210, James Eckhouse, is driving him.
I didn't notice that.
This is pre 90210, obviously, but I got a kick out of that when I saw him.
I gotcha.
He's gonna
I was kind of like looking through the streets to see if I recognized anything. That's what I was paying attention to.
Yeah, not a huge role in the movie. He literally drives him to the airport and then you don't see him again.
Yeah.
But he's talking to his wife, I think, and telling her what they're doing. He had a car phone. Oh my God!
Yes, the car phone.
Holy cow! The technology in 1991. He had a car phone. He's talking to his wife, and he's getting the BMW with leather. That's with leather. That was a big deal.
Yep.
He goes in to pick it up, and there's a salesman who's sitting there, and he's on the phone with a female customer who you can hear. They set it up so you can hear her, and she's complaining about a smell in her car.
Yeah,
that they just bought. Yeah. And at one point, he tells her, "If it smells on Monday, bring it in." When Albert walks in, he goes, "Oh, you've lost a tremendous amount of weight."
Yeah.
And Albert's like, "Oh, that's how could I? How could I have? You just saw me
3 days ago."
3 days ago.
and then he's like, "Oh, that's the look. You're $39,000 lighter."
Yeah.
So that's what a BMW cost back then, I guess. Yeah. 39 grand. Okay.
And it turns out we know that's not even the top end BMW, because when they walk out, he's pointing at this, this big 4-door sedan.
Yeah,
at the top of the line.
Look at it. Oh,
and Albert,
beautiful.
And Albert's like, "Wow, it's even bigger than I thought it would be." "Oh, yeah, that's bigger because that's not yours." And there's a little 2-door convertible. Very nice car, but still.
Yeah. He's like, "That's a 750. Mine looks like a turd compared to that one."
So they also finds out that there's a CD player in the car.
Right.
Because he got the top end radio, so there's a CD player in the car.
He's surprised by that.
Yes. Yeah. All he asked for the top end radio. He didn't know he was getting a CD player, but he's also got a bunch of CDs. Yeah. So he cracks them open. Yep. Among them, I was going to pause it, but I'm too lazy to do it. But Don Henley's "The End of the Innocents" was right on top of the stack.
Okay. All right.
And then we know that he also got Barbra Streisand's The Broadway album.
Yeah.
Because that's what he puts in.
Yeah.
Pops that in. So he's got the CD player still in the box on the seat, and he's got the CDs on top of that box. And he starts driving, and he's enjoying his car. He's weaving through traffic, and he's got the music cranked up. As he gets towards a stoplight, you hear some guy yell, "Do we all have to hear that?"
Gives him a thumbs up.
Yeah, she's singing "Something's Coming" from West Side Story.
Yeah,
West Side Story. And he's singing right along with it.
Little preview there.
So
he's bopping along with Babs.
Light turns green. He guns it, and then when he has to slow down, the CDs slide off the seat.
Yeah.
And while he's driving, he leans over, and he's picking them up.
Ben.
And when he looks up, all we see is the front of a bus.
We see Albert's expression on his face, knowing he's going to die, and he does.
After I finished watching this, I just let it roll, and Amazon played another movie for me right after. What movie do you think they thought paired well with Defending Your Life? Another movie from it's at least 10 years older.
Is it an Albert Brooks movie?
No, but it's a similar.
10 years older. How about let's go with Duel with Dennis Weaver.
It was Heaven Can Wait.
Heaven Can Wait.
Which I then watched about half of.
Okay. See, there you go.
And in Heaven Can Wait, I was impressed. I've seen the movie before. There's no way they could have faked it every time. Warren Beatty could really throw a football.
Good. Yeah.
Like, because he's playing, he's a quarterback for the Rams, and you see him in practice, and he's calling plays, and coming off of a horrible knee injury that he elected not to have surgery on, and the team is convinced that he's never going to be any good again. But he rehabbed it through holistic methods, and he's just won the starting spot back.
Yeah.
And, Jack Warden tells him right before he then gets hit by a bus.
Yeah.
That's I'm sure why they paired them
there
together.
You go. Okay. And okay.
He was jogging though.
Right.
Or was he on the bike? He's jogging at the beginning. He might have been on a bike when he got hit by the bus. Anyway. I don't want to spoil that.
That way, we don't spoil 2 movies for you, just the one.
Oh, that's right. I didn't warn people at the beginning. We're going to talk about this whole movie. So if you've never seen the movie, stop listening to this, go watch the movie, and then come back and watch it. It'll be or listen to this.
Yeah.
It'll be even better.
If you haven't seen this movie, shame on you. Go see this movie.
Yeah, it's worth the $3.58 on Amazon Prime.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. So now we see Albert. He's kind of out of it. Everyone is out of it.
A wheelchair being wheeled along.
Yes, being wheeled
people.
3 wide.
3 wide.
And there's a lot of old people. There's rows and rows of these people being pushed by orderlies. And
yes.
And they're doing it 3 wide. They go down and then they apparently they're like in some kind of waiting area. And then they put them on a tram.
Yes, lots of trams.
Lots of trams. When they're on the tram, there you see billboards as he's going by.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that he's what's called Judgment City.
Right.
And there's a billboard for the Tropicana nightclub, and it's the hottest spot in Judgment City. Right. And for Sid's Steakhouse.
Yeah, I'm glad you're going to bring this up. I was going to bring this up too. Yeah.
What do you like Sid's tagline?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was funny because the Sid's Steakhouse, still eat meat. We have the best. Now, like you're thinking, now that's 1991, and there was still a thought, you still eat meat back in 1991. That was pretty wild. I had to kind of think about that. Like, wait a minute. Wow. Yeah.
Right. He goes to they take him to the Continental Hotel.
Right.
And there's a guy in the lobby who basically they're all standing there slack jawed and glassy eyed.
Yeah, they've been through something.
Yeah. And he basically tells them they're all checked in. They're just going to take them to their rooms. They're probably going to want to sleep. And then in the morning, they'll explain all this to them in greater detail. But they can call him at any time if they want. So Feldman takes him up to his room and is explaining something just like it's basically a crappy Super 8 hotel room. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And he's explaining there's 5 channels on the TV and you can do this, you can do that. And Albert, who still can't talk and is just kind of motions, he's wearing like a
tupa.
Well, is he even in the tupa yet? Because the tupa had like the belt thing. This is just like a big
maybe this is like the
robe.
Or
but it does have a pocket in it.
Yeah. And
Albert is fumbling with the pocket because he's trying to tip him. And the guy's like, well, I'd be very surprised if you find anything in there, but I appreciate the thought. So Albert falls face down to sleep.
Yep.
And then he is awakened by a phone call from Rip Torn.
The great Rip Torn.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Hello?
Mr. Miller?
Yes?
Hold on for Bob Diamond, please.
Who?
Daniel?
Yes?
Diamond here. How are you, my friend? Good sleep?
Yes.
Amazing, isn't it? Listen, you're going to get up, get showered, you're going to put on some of those nice clothes, you're going to take a tram downtown, and you're going to come see me this morning. You have any idea what's going on?
No?
Well, in a nutshell, you're here to defend your life, and I'm going to help you.
Defend my life?
In a few hours, you're going to be smarter than anyone you've ever met. Sound exciting?
Yeah, I guess.
It is, believe me. Say, did you eat breakfast yet?
No.
I've got some good news for you. It's not only the best food you'll ever have, but you can eat all you want.
I can what?
As long as you're here, you can eat all you want. It won't affect you physically, and you won't gain weight. So pig out, eat 30 hot cakes. I'll see you at 11.
I can eat all I want?
Eat everything. Take care.
Who is Bob Diamond. He is the man who has been assigned to
defend him.
To Daniel Miller. That is
Daniel Miller.
That is Albert Brooks' act. Probably stop calling him Albert, start calling him by his actual character name.
Yes.
Oh, he comes as close as we get then to hence the name of the movie. Explains to him, he says a little bit about what's going to happen, and he says, in a nutshell, you're here to defend your life.
Yes.
So it's very close. And he's the one who's going to help him defend it. This is part of this is kind of part one of Rip's big career comeback.
Mm-hmm.
This was 1991 and 1992. He got the role of Artie in the Larry Sanders Show. I liked Bob, but I really wish they had just written him like Artie.
Yeah.
And he just was far more profane and pissed all the time. And
I ought to kick your ass.
Excuse me?
That tape you copied is crawling around town like the fucking Ebola virus.
I only made one copy.
And then sent it into the world like the fucking Ebola virus.
I just sent it to a friend.
So what are you doing to resolve the situation, sonny boy? Because this little stunt of yours may well cost that poor man his livelihood. If Hank goes down, you'll be gone, Phil.
God, listen, I'm sorry.
I don't
did not
listen
mean
to that shit. Pick up the phone and get the names and numbers of everyone who's part of this underground railroad of perverts. You and I are going to get these tapes back, and I hope to hell it's not too late.
Artie, I really am sorry.
No problem, buddy. You make me laugh. I hope to hell we don't have to fire your ass.
But that would be great. But he is a pretty. You see glimpses of Artie though. Like before he calls Daniel, he's given the file. He's at his little office.
Oh, yeah.
He's given the file, and first of all, he finds out who he's up against, and he's up against a tough prosecutor, Lee Grant. And he's looking at the file. He goes, "Oof, she's gonna have a field day with this one."
They call her the Dragon Lady.
The Dragon Lady. That's our prosecutor. And the rumor was, she lost last Thursday.
Yeah.
And he says, "Really? There is a God," which is one of the very few references to God or religion at all in the entire movie, which is a pretty astounding feat to make a whole entire movie about the afterlife. Almost no, nothing to do with religion.
Yeah, there is no overt
not at
mention of religion at all.
Yeah.
But Bob explains to him something that is a big part of this. He can eat all he wants.
Yes.
The food it's the best food he's ever going to have in his life, and the portions are limitless, and he can eat whatever he wants.
Right.
It's like, eat everything.
Eat everything. It won't affect you physically, and you won't gain weight.
Yeah, so he's like, he needs to take a shower and go down and get ready, and he gets distracted by he's flipping around the TV.
Yeah.
There's like a terrible soap opera, and there's a game show, Face Your Fear.
He's facing his fear.
We get to see what it was.
Right.
They talk about the 3 championship golf courses you could play, whatever. And so he's a little late. He gets down there and he orders breakfast. Mm-hmm. He gets the waitress. Everything is great, of course, but she recommends the cheese omelet. So he has cheese omelet. Takes one bite of it's the greatest thing ever, and his tram is there, and he has to leave.
Yeah, I kind of look like more of a Western omelet, by the way. That was
there was a lot of stuff in it.
A lot of stuff in there, but okay.
Now he gets on the tram and he sits down, and there's an old lady behind him, and the first thing she says to it, she leans forward, she goes, "So young, AIDS."
Which that's one of those. In 1991, that was very much on our minds, right?
Yeah,
it's another thing. It kind of because when we first saw this movie, we were younger than the characters, right? We were younger than Al Brooks and Meryl Streep and everybody. And now watching it again, now we're older than those characters are.
Yeah,
kind of a different perspective.
Well, and then what else does she want to talk to Albert about?
I don't know. I just.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had the other one. So she goes.
Oh no, yeah. Go ahead.
All right. She goes. Let me tell you about my dog. Have you got a while? And when they pull in, she goes, "Do you have a dog?" He said, "Yeah, you asked me twice." Well, what did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. He goes to meet Bob, and he's asking him. He's like, "Is this heaven or hell?" Mm-hmm. And Bob goes, "There is no hell, though I hear Los Angeles is close."
Right.
And they explain that Daniel's in his examining period where he'll be judged if he can move forward. Mm-hmm. And it's the first time we hear what the basic conceit of this is that on Earth, fear holds people back from their full potential.
Right.
And that's going to, you succumbing to your own fears is the thing most likely to hold you back from moving on.
Right.
And Bob explains to him, he goes, "I use 48% of my brain. Do you know what percent of yours you use?"
47?
3.
3%?
3%?
He goes, everyone, all little brains use 3 to 5% of their brain. Little brains? That's what we call you behind your back.
Yeah. Yeah, he goes, your life has been spent dealing with fear. That's what you little brains do.
Yes.
He goes, I'm on trial for being afraid.
Well,
He
first
explains
off,
to him.
I don't like to call it a trial, and second of all,
Right.
yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
He explains to him, he said, if he'll either go forward or he'll go back. He goes, you don't keep going back. Eventually they throw you away.
Mm-hmm.
And so Albert finds out how many times he has gone back.
Mm-hmm.
20.
And
Bob's
Bob
like,
said, Bob
oh,
was
yeah.
there 6. He was there 6. You're right.
He goes, but some people have been there 100 times.
Wouldn't want to talk to any of them, but I've seen them.
Oh, that's when he's the one who calls her the Dragon Lady, because he says that the person they're going to be up against is Lena Foster, and she's the Dragon Lady, and that is Lee Grant, who was maybe best known for she was in Shampoo.
Mm-hmm. That'd probably be her best known role. Yeah,
and she was in The Heat of the Night, the movie, not the TV show, and she was in Airport 77. Which I got to pull earlier in the podcast.
Nice pull. Yeah.
So they find out like how many days you're going to review, and it's the thing it's like the question everybody asks everybody in this movie is how many days.
Big question, right? Yes.
And 9. It's like, is that a lot? Well,
I prefer 7. 9's fine. Some people have 4.
Yeah, he tells them the children automatically go ahead. He goes, "Isn't that nice?
Isn't that nice?"
But teenagers, we don't have teenagers here. We did for a while. It was too much trouble. They really messed up the tooks.
The tupas.
That's right.
Tupas are too rowdy.
And so Albert is eating chicken, and he's enjoying it. It's the greatest chicken he's ever had in his life. And he's looking at Bob, and Bob is eating. I don't know.
It kind of looks like a brownie, really,
Yeah.
But yeah.
And he asks Daniel if he wants to try it, so he takes a big bite, and it tastes a little like horseshit, doesn't it?
This is what smart people eat. And then he asked him how much he could. He asked, "Did you give a lot of money to charity?" And Albert's there, kind of fumpering around about that. Well, I some. And he explains to him, I'm just merely my curiosity, and then he says another kind of part of the conceit of the movie. He says there was one person on Earth that you were really cheap with. Who? You.
Yes.
So we're getting everything set up here.
So Bob tells him that while he's there, he should go to the Past Lives Pavilion.
Yes.
So he can go see who he's been in previous incarnations. He warns him, though, it makes some people queasy. He goes back to the hotel, and there's the best sight gag in the movie is he's walking by and he stops, he looks at a sign, and it says, "Welcome, Kiwanis Dead."
Classic. Fantastic. He also, as he's walking in, he scoffs. He sees the new people being checked in for the first time. He scoffs at them like, please, losers.
Been there for 12 hours.
Right.
So he's got time on his hands, so he goes to the comedy club, the Bomb Shelter.
Bomb Shelter.
Have you ever played the Bomb Shelter?
I have not played the Bomb Shelter yet. No.
And the comedian is trying to do a little crowd work, and he asked one guy,
"Hi, Arthur. And where were you from?"
Denver. Lovely city, Denver, Arthur. Did you ski? No.
No. How'd you die?
I was in a coma.
I'm sorry. How long were you in the coma?
I really don't know.
Let's play a game, Art. Elvis, living or dead?
Living.
Long coma, Art.
Long coma.
Then he asks the crowd in general, and Daniel yells, he goes, "How did you die?" Daniel yells, "On stage, like you."
Yes, great. Which is brutal from one stand-up to another.
Yes. But it causes one person in the audience to laugh, and it is Julia, played by Meryl Streep. And so she immediately comes over and sits at his table to chat with him.
Yep.
And they decide they're going to leave, and they stand up and they're going to leave, but the comic shames them to sitting back down because it's time for his big song.
Oh, that song.
Which is That Was Life instead of Frank Sinatra's That's Life. Yeah, it's terrible. So anyway, they go for a walk, and she says she tells them they're only looking for 4 days.
Right. You're like, oh, and we already know the audience, as an audience, she must have been pretty brave.
And he has a great line in there where they're talking about each other's, like, were they married? And he said, "I have a theory that you should be with someone just attractive enough to turn you on. Anything extra is trouble."
Mm-hmm.
He's insinuating that his wife was too attractive from the long run.
Which
we
is
see
confirmed
yes,
in a later scene.
When we see the later scene, she's very much, yes.
Yeah. I got a quick casting story about Meryl Streep then, if you want to hear that.
Sure.
So this was shared at this event with Judd Apatow and Rob Reiner and Albert, because, Meryl Streep particularly, I mean, she was still even Meryl Streep back then in the 90s, like this tremendous actress, not known for comedy, certainly. And it's kind of an odd, and also kind of seems like disproportionately a huge star compared to kind of this movie, perhaps. And so the way that came about is Albert was friends with Carrie Fisher, and they were having dinner, and Carrie Fisher and Meryl Streep had done a movie together. They worked on Postcards from the Edge. And so they're at this dinner, and Meryl asks Albert if you're what are you working on, and he tells her, and she says to him, is there something in it for me? And he said, yeah, right. Because he just thought she was so unapproachable, and he would just never consider that. And then he thinks about it. He's like, wait a minute. This could be really great. And she's super approachable. She's super down to earth. She's this wonderful person. So he actually rewrote that part of Julia specifically for Meryl Streep.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
She's it's Meryl Streep, so she's perfect in it.
Right.
Yeah, they go to her hotel, and her hotel is much nicer.
That's the best.
Than Elvis.
You see that a lot. How that's another kind of little recurring theme. She's the person who, she's got the beautiful hotel. We find out her lawyer uses far more of his brain than Daniel's lawyer
51%.
Yeah.
Oh, he's very good.
That's clocked. So there's some discrepancies there. Like, she gets a super nice. There's already a caste system, even though there's supposedly, theoretically,
yes,
everybody's equal and just get to be judged on the merits. There's already a little caste system of Judgment City.
So he finally goes to his hearing, and so we see Lena for the first time, and these two nameless judges.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure they're not called judges, but they're wearing judges' robes, and they're judging the case. And the idea is they're going to show moments from his life, and then both sides will argue the moments. And this is kind of an odd setup. So the screen is behind him.
Yeah.
But he is facing the judges. And at first I thought he was moving himself. The chair automatically rotated to look at the screen.
Right. And
then back when the clip was over.
Mm-hmm.
They must have thought that was the height of technology. Look, the chair will move on its own.
Did. Yeah.
So the first clip they play is he's 11 years old, and he's on the playground. And he's playing football on the playground, and a bully comes up with his, like, a tripper keeper of papers of Daniel's, and starts to tear it up in front of him. Albert gets mad but won't do anything about it. And the bully hits him, and he refuses to hit him back.
Mm-hmm. And the kids taunt him.
Yeah,
Chicken.
everybody laughs.
Yeah.
So but Bob comes up, and he's got a clip that's going to completely redeem this.
Yes.
And it's of 1-year-old Daniel in a crib, in a playpen in the living room, watching his parents scream at each other. And his dad is really mad, and he almost hits his mom. But he doesn't. Instead, he hugs her, and then they come over to make nice with the baby. And so Bob says that Daniel wasn't being a wimp. He wasn't afraid on the playground. He was showing restraint that he learned when he was 1 year old, and his dad controlled himself from hitting his mother. The next clip, he's 10, and he's sitting in art class. And do you know who the actor who is his seat partner?
The other kid there?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I didn't look that up. Who is it?
That is Ethan Embry, who is best known as TB Player, the bass player from That Thing You Do. And he's done in a bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
He's playing Steve, who is Daniel's friend, and does not have his art supplies. And his dad is going to kill him.
Oh, yeah.
So at the last minute, Daniel shoves his art supplies over in front of Steve and pretends that he has lost his.
Yeah.
Or left them at home. Well,
what did you do? Lose them or leave them? We got to give a shout out to the substitute or to the art teacher.
First I left them, and then I lost them.
The teacher's fantastic. He's got the comb overs. This is an annoying teacher.
So the teacher asks the class,
"Where are your supplies, Daniel? What's going on? Do you know how much these things cost?" Class, tell Daniel how much the paints cost. $10. And the brushes? $3. What's the total? $13.
How much do these supplies cost? How much do the paints cost? And they'll go $10. How much do the brushes cost? And half of them say $3 and half of them say $3.50.
$3.50.
And then he goes, "What's the total?" And so half of them say $13 and half of them say $13.50.
$13.50.
Which is a nice touch. And he tells Daniel he's going to have to talk to his father because somebody's going to have to come up with the money to pay for these missing art supplies.
Right.
So Bob is immediately taking credit for, look at him. Look at the courage in the moment. He didn't hesitate. He immediately covered for his friend. That shows the kind of courage.
That's right.
And so then Lena pops up and says, well, let's go to a clip slightly later that day. And it's him at home being screamed at by his father.
Yep.
But he's taking it until his father says, you're going to be grounded. We no TV for a month.
Woof.
And he's like, oh, it was Steve. Steve, I was covering for Steve. He lost his. It's his fault.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we're going to call Steve's father. We're going to tell him about it.
He's got the best line. He goes, "Hey, it was Steve's fault. Hey, punish him." He totally sells him up with the threat of no TV for a month.
Yeah. So Lena is cross-examining Daniel and says, so you never lied to your father? And he's like, no, I had a...
Well, Bob says, I just think the little boy had a bond with his father.
That's right.
And Albert's or Daniel's nodding along, and she goes, "Oh, I see you agree with Mr. Diamond. Is that right? You had a oh yes, I had a bond with my father. I pretty much never lied to him. You never lied to your father?
Yeah.
Would you like me to show you at least 500 examples?" He goes, "I said pretty much." You have to lie sometimes, and he goes on this soliloquy.
And he goes, sometimes in the middle of a lie, the bond would kick in.
You know, sometimes in the middle of a lie, I found that the bond would kick in. Maybe squeeze a little truth out.
And just a little truth would come out. It goes off, which prompts Bob to go, wrap it up. I'm through.
So then, the first day's over and things, Bob tells, I think things went great. Well, things clearly didn't go great.
No, not at all.
So he tells him that he met a girl, but she's busy. That night. He's like amused that one day he met a girl, and the second day she's already busy.
Yeah.
She was going to a dinner with some big brains, and
right.
She was going to check in with him after dinner. So he's on his own. So I love this. He goes to a sushi bar.
My favorite scene. And
when he walks in, they're like, "Hey!" And they're all yelling stuff. It's just like in Curb. Larry would go to that one where they yell until they got pissed at him, and then they start calling him an asshole.
Right. Yep. Exactly it.
Yeah, so he goes in and he orders some sushi, and they give him
tuna. But anyway, tuna. They repeat everything he says, basically.
Tuna.
Right? Yeah, tuna.
And it loves the greatest tuna he's ever had. And so the one guy's making small talk with him, and he goes, well, how many days are you looking at? And he's like, 9 days. 9 days?
9 days.
9 days. You should have more sake.
And then there's a guy next to him who's the best.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Frank?
Yeah, Frank is sitting down next to him, and he's kind of strikes up like two guys at a bar, and he goes, I'm looking at 13 days. Is that a lot? I don't know. Albert's like, I don't know. We knows it's a lot.
Yeah.
And then they get to talking about. He talks about what'd you do for a living, Dan? Advertising. He goes, I've made a lot of money in adult books. Selling them? No, reading them. Yes, of course, selling them. The best line is like, you ever been to those strip clubs? Yeah, those clubs by the airport? And I was like, those strip clubs? Yeah. He's like, you know that with the sign says totally all nude? Yeah, that was me. What? Yeah. What do you mean? Well, I came up with all nude. They used to just say nude. I added totally all nude. Double business in a week. I got to take a piss. You want to go? No, thanks. So he gets up to leave, and the sushi guys are like, thank you very much. It's like, oh, I'm not leaving. I'm just going to take a piss. Like, take a piss.
Thank you very much.
I'm not leaving. I'm just going to take a piss.
Take a piss. Take a piss.
And he goes back to his room, and Julia's left him a message, so he's very excited to hear from her.
Mm-hmm.
And then he watches a little TV, and he's watching a talk show. There's a 25-year-old blonde sitting on the couch, and the host says, "So you had sex with Benjamin Franklin?" Just twice. He goes, "How was he?" He goes, "He was fat."
Yeah, he was fat. Oh, yep.
So the next day, day 2, he goes in, and Bob's not there. Buck Henry is filling in. Is filling in for him, but he uses 51% of his brain. That's clocked. Yeah.
That's clocked.
Yeah.
Clocked.
So it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, because Albert is, understandably very nervous that his lawyer's not
Right.
there. This guy doesn't know
Day
anything
2, he's
about
already
it. How's
gone.
this guy going to defend me?
Yep.
He assures him he knows everything about his case, and he knows everything about his life, and he has good hands.
Yep. So the clip they show when he's 21, 20.
I'm sorry. And he does say, without tooting my own horn, I am pretty good at this. Okay.
He's 24 years old, and he has $10,000 to invest, and a friend is giving him a tip.
Mm-hmm.
So they're sitting down. The tip is Casio.
They're gearing up now. They should start production in about 3 months. Buy as much stock as you can.
Sounds fantastic.
Wait. Switzerland keeps the time, Charles. Not Japan.
It's gonna change.
I don't think so.
Wait, why can't Japan keep the time?
Because you need a society that's into precision to keep time. And with all due respect, Japan makes a hell of a radio, but they don't know beans about precision. Now, you come here, and you tell me the Germans are going to start making watches. You've got my money. What's the stock at today?
6.
Okay, here's my prediction. When word hits the street, you're at 3. You watch. Remember who said it?
So he doesn't do it. And she basically says Casio would go on to become the primary maker of watches.
Yeah.
And even one of the judges holds his arm up and points at his Casio watch. Even in Judgment City, one of the judges has a Casio watch.
Yeah.
She shares that his $10,000 investment at the time of their hearing would have been worth $37 million.
Buck Henry goes, wow.
Yeah, wow. And so the judges go, would you like to, do you have anything? And Buck goes, I'm fine.
I'm fine. And Albert can't believe it. He's like, you're not going to say anything in my defense? He goes, you speak. I like to hear what you say. Albert, geez, you are good.
They try to find out okay, so what did you invest in? And he doesn't want to say. And finally he goes, cattle. I was like, well, what happened? He's like, I never got a straight answer. All I know is their teeth fell out.
Then the judge goes, calls out the defense lawyer. Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
So they go.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I would say the next clip, he's 29.
Yeah.
And his wife and he are role playing because he's going in for either to start a new job or the final job interview, and he's going to negotiate his salary. And the wife is played by the beautiful Susan Walters, who has been on Young and the Restless apparently for the last 23 years.
Yes, and she's not Young and the Restless, right? Yes,
yeah. She's also
definitely very beautiful.
She plays the mom in a couple of in the Teen Wolf TV show and something else.
Yeah,
so she's worked, but yeah, she's a great looking woman. So she's going to help him practice negotiating, and they strategize it so he's not going to give in until he gets $65,000 a year. She goes, 49,000. It's got to be 65,000, not a penny under. 55,000. Nope, 65. 61? No, 65. I cannot take less than $65,000 a year.
Right, under no conditions.
Under no conditions. So then they say, okay, well, let's see what happens. And so he's barely sat down in the seat in front of the guy, and the guy goes, Daniel.
Your Honors, I would like to go directly to the next afternoon and show you the real encounter.
Daniel, I'm prepared to offer you $49,000.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. He goes, I'm going to get you a parking spot. He caves immediately.
Yeah. They ask him so what was it that you could negotiate like that with your wife, but not with your boss? Right. He didn't look like my wife.
Right. He was a man in a suit.
Man in a suit. He had a
And
smell.
That suit had an odor, and the odor said $49,000 a year. And Buck Henry goes, I like that very much.
Yeah.
So once again, Buck does not defend him at all.
No.
He chooses to move on. And that's what Albert says. And you didn't want to toot your own horn.
So then she gets up and says, now we're going to show you a compilation of 168 clips, half fear-based and half stupid.
Half just stupid. Which is a montage of very funny montage.
Yes.
Basically everybody, his lawyer, the judges, the prosecutor,
they're all laughing, very much enjoying. Yes. One of them is him apparently trying to adjust the antenna on his house, and he sees him slide down, and they just hear the
down.
crash.
Yeah. There's another. He locked himself in his car or something.
Yes, that's right. He's like he's inside the car with a coat hanger. I don't know what he's trying to do with the coat hanger. Trying to hook the door handle.
Don't know what's going on there, but yeah. He buys a used car. He drives off the lot. The used car salesmen are just laughing their ass off at him because they fleeced him.
So they're going to go to the Julie and him are going on a date. They're going to the Past Lives Pavilion.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to go because she hears they have the best hot dogs.
Yes. Right.
Anyway, so go ahead.
No, she. It's another thing. Got an ongoing gag in this. Julia loves the food. She's just totally enjoying the experience. Yeah. She's loving everything. Albert's still very self-conscious about even too much food and all this stuff. He's still worried about being judged. Where she's totally free about it.
Yeah, they in this huge long line with people, and you queue up, and then you go into you stand in like a little partition, and put your hand on the plate,
right?
And then up to 5 past lives, no more than that, to keep things moving.
Shirley MacLaine is doing the
that's right.
The introduction.
Perfect casting. Shirley MacLaine,
right.
Famous for believing in past lives,
mm-hmm.
is doing the introduction, and then they show this. The first guy you see is this old guy that we've never met. And he's got his hand on the thing, and there's just a little girl. It's like a hologram in front of it. It's just a little girl combing his hair. He's like, what the hell is this?
You see his little girl, just combing my hair, Mumsy. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, Daniels is like a native somewhere in the jungle. You can hear the tiger or lion roaring in the background, and he starts running
for his life.
And Julius is a guy. Is a like a
Julie's
knight with a Prince Valiant haircut. Fighting, very valiantly fighting. And so he yells across the thing,
Who are you?
I'm Prince Valiant.
Really?
Yeah. Who are you?
Dinner.
Dinner.
And then this bothered me. So they're taking the tram back, and she's eating a corn dog.
Yeah.
She's not having a hot dog. She's having a corn dog.
Right.
But she's housing it so completely, he asks her if she's going to eat the stick.
Yes.
Oh, that's when we find out how she died.
Right.
He told her that he got hit by a bus, and he wants to know. She doesn't want to tell him. She's embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
And then she explains that they were on vacation, and her family went off to go do something, and she stayed behind because she wanted to swim, and she tripped, and she hit her head, and she rolled into the pool.
Yeah, and drowned.
And she was talking about how mad she was. He goes, "You died pissed?" She goes, "Well, I'm an excellent swimmer."
Yeah, she said, "I'm still pissed."
Next day they're back, and Bob is back.
Day 3. Yep.
Yes. And he asked Bob, "Where were you?" He said, "Well, I'd tell you, but you wouldn't understand." "Well, where were you?" "I was trapped near the inner circle of thought."
I don't understand.
"I don't understand."
Told you.
First clip is he's got this huge opportunity. He's 39 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He's picked to give this big speech to the Ford Motor Corporation.
Yes,
it's going to make his career.
At the advertising agency, he works at his Foot Cone and Belting, and it's a big speech to all their dealers. Huge opportunity.
Big opportunity for him. Big opportunity for the firm.
Mm-hmm.
He's literally sitting at like a makeup mirror in the green room. He's there. One of his colleagues is grabbing him to send him out, and he won't go.
Yeah,
he refuses to do it.
He's scared stiff.
They basically shove him out onto the stage behind the podium, and he stands there looking very blank. And I expected him. I got confused. I thought for a minute he was going to start sweating profusely, but I realized that was his character in broadcast news.
That's right. Right.
And All of a sudden, two guys come in, one of them dressed as a fireman, and they evacuate the ballroom because there's a gas leak.
Mm-hmm.
So he was saved by the gas leak.
Saved by the gas leak, yes.
And Bob tells the judges, once again, proof of his courage. Even though he didn't want, every fiber of his being was telling him not to do it, he did it.
Right.
And she's like, he didn't do it. He got saved by a gas leak, and he never, ever tried to do anything like that again.
Right.
I was like, well, he conquered his fear. He got up.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. Now this, I love the next clip.
Me too.
He's, they go back to when he's 31 years old, and he's on a snowmobile, careening somewhat out of control down a mountain. And he's happy, at least at the beginning. Seems to be enjoying himself.
Well, first he asked him, where does this take place?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Big Bear.
Big Bear.
Bob Evans. Big Bear.
Big Bear. So as he's driving, he's yelling, he's kind of singing, and he's doing. He sounds exactly like his brother. It's basically Super Dave.
Yeah.
Flying down the mountain.
Yep.
He eventually completely loses control. And he goes hurtling through the air.
Mm-hmm.
Crashes. And Bob asks him, how far did you have to go for help? Oh, about 3 miles.
3 miles.
You broke that leg in 2 places. I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you. Yes, I did. I'm proud of you. This is definitely Bob Diamond. This is his trump card, right? This is the thing that's going to show how brave he is, and he should definitely move forward.
The greatest part, though, is Daniel explaining to the judges basically the horrors of riding a snowmobile.
Right, because Lee Grant says, yeah, but you never got on a snowmobile again. And he says, that had nothing to do with fear.
You have to believe me on this. This has nothing to do with fear. This is hate. This is a rotten contraption, Your Honors. First of all, it heats up like a toaster oven. I burn the hair off my thigh from my knee to my crotch, singe it right off. Secondly, I don't know if it was the leather seat or if it was lined with fur, but years of rotting and drying out and getting wet. Mine smelled like an old sheepdog. Thirdly, it's very, very noisy. And they don't tell you about that. You don't find out until about the second hour when you can't hear anyone. You get off and have a snack and your friends are in a silent movie. And fourth, pardon the expression, but your balls vibrate for 3 weeks afterwards.
You burn all the hair from your knees to your groin.
Yeah. It singes all the hairs off your leg. And they seem to go with it.
So Julia has invited him, if he gets done early, to go to her room to
so
see
he shows
her.
up early to her hearing. Yes.
And of course, she goes in and you see this house completely engulfed in flames, and she's running out with her 2 kids under her arms, and she puts them safely down on the sidewalk. Yeah. And she goes back in and she comes out with the cat.
And the whole courtroom, everybody, the prosecutor, the judges, they're all just enjoying this, having a great time.
The prosecutor even asked, what kind of cat was it? Oh, it's a calico. Oh, I love calico.
I love calico. They're just all in awe of Julia. And we mentioned it briefly. Julia's lawyer uses 54% of
54,
his
that's
brain.
right. Yeah.
And so again, the woman who doesn't, the person who doesn't need the good lawyer at all gets the great lawyer. Yeah. Albert, who really needs a good lawyer, has an okay lawyer, but not as good. He only uses 48%, not 54% of his brain.
And the judges invite everybody to come. Let's come back for one more day. We'll watch another clip, basically just for our own enjoyment. So Julia and Daniel decide to go to the Italian restaurant.
Yeah, I love this.
And it's a restaurant for the actual citizens, the people who live there.
Yeah.
So it was but they get extra food because they're
right.
They're the visitors. They can eat whatever they want.
I feel like most of restaurants serve both visitors and
but
trial.
They make something about. I think she says it's like the one.
It's like the best.
It's the restaurant.
Best
it's the best one. It's the one the residents love.
Yes.
So they go there, and she asks, sitting down. She asks, "Do you have a jacuzzi in your room?" And he just looks at her and she's like, no, neither do I. It's in the bathroom. It might not even be a jacuzzi. It might just be holes in the tub. And he's like, it's fine if you have a jacuzzi. He goes, oh, I do, and I love it. I use it every night.
She's having the best time.
Yeah. The waiter is great.
I love that guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
He tells her he's going to bring her, I forget what it is, like 40 pounds of pasta.
You like pasta? I'm going to bring you 3 pounds.
3 pounds.
And then he asks Albert how many days he's looking at, and he says 9. Ooh. Ooh. Just look at his face like, ooh, that sucks. And he brings he says, you like shrimp? Ooh, maybe we can make it, so just hop right off of the plate. And he brings him a platter of 30 shrimp. And which Albert is excited about until we see his prosecutor, Lee Grant, walking in with her, we presume her husband, I guess.
Yeah, at least it's a date.
It's a date, if not a husband, yeah.
Yeah. And then he gets very embarrassed because Julia is slurping the world's longest piece of linguine.
Yep.
And he's like, just snip that off. Just cut that off. He's like, he's grabbing it, trying to cut it off.
It's like, suck that up.
So she finds out that that's who that is. This is prosecutor. And so she tells him, we're going to go over and say hi. He's, oh.
Yeah,
so
right.
she gets up to go to the bathroom and she stops by and she goes, you're Daniel's prosecutor? I think he's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And her Lee Grant's husband kind of flirts with Meryl.
Yep.
Which Lee Grant does not like.
No.
Martin. So even in the universe, there's little, there's little relationship troubles. It's not necessarily everything is great, even when you move ahead in the universe.
So the waiter has promised Albert, he says, do you like a pie? I'm going to get you 9 pies.
I'm going to bring you 9 pies.
1 for each day. You're going to show. And so they're getting ready, trying to leave. And he's like, oh, I got to get your pies. And he says 2 huge hat boxes of pies that he has to carry out of the rest of the hall. He walks by Lena and he's like,
you asked me to bring you these pies.
No, I didn't.
Sir, I did not. Yes, you did. I like you. I'm going to bring you some steaks. Steaks. Yeah, so now he's walking out with 2 enormous boxes of 9 pies.
So they go back to her apartment, to her hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sitting on a couch in the lobby and they're talking. And she asks him, do you want to spend the night with me? And he says, more than anything in the world. But it's Albert Brooks, so you know what's coming next.
Right.
But I don't think I should. I don't want to screw it up. He's basically talking about how it's the greatest thing ever and he can only make it bad. And now he's got this memory that he doesn't want to ruin. So
he's basically showing the Albert Brooks that is going to be sent back to Earth because he's too afraid.
Too afraid.
Yes.
And so he leaves her. She's literally crying on the couch.
She tells him that she loves him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't say it, doesn't repeat it. It's just him at his worst.
I guess on the tram and goes back to his hotel. And then he has second thought. And so he calls her hotel.
Yeah.
And he says, I need to leave a message for Julia. And they're like, well, what's her last name? I don't know. Well, we have 2 Julias.
Right.
Oh, could you just ring them? I'm sorry, we can't do that, sir.
Yeah.
So he leaves this emotional message for both of them.
My God, I don't know her last name.
Excuse me, sir?
I've fallen in love with a woman in your hotel, and I don't know her last name.
I see. What's her first name?
Julia.
We have 2 Julias. Both of them have Do Not Disturbs on.
Can you ring through, please? It's very important.
No, sir. I'm not allowed to do that.
But it's very important.
I'm sorry, sir.
Well, can I leave a message then? I guess for both of them.
Go ahead, sir.
Tell them both that I love them more than life itself, and I've never met anybody like them, and I'll miss them forever and ever.
Is that all, sir?
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you.
So we go to the last day, and they're showing his final clips. The first one, he's 36 years old. He's just recently divorced from the great-looking woman. He has $9,000 to his name, and he's decided to go on vacation to Hong Kong. And he's checking in at the airport, and he finds out that he goes, what seat? It's like, whatever it was, B. He says, B is in between A and C. So he's going to be on a middle seat all the way to Asia. And he asks, how much is it for a first? Do you have any first class tickets? He says, yes, we have one. We could upgrade you to it. Round trip. It's going to cost $3,000.
Yeah.
And he does it.
Yes.
And then Bob says that is evidence of him being so courageous that with no money left,
Yes.
Just for a little bit of personal comfort, he's willing to spend an extra $3,000.
Right. Right.
And so we expect that Lena's going to come up and somehow rebut that, and she doesn't even bother. Instead, she'd like to show you a clip from last night. He's like, last night here? Last night? Yes.
Uh-huh.
I thought we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. I was told we weren't doing that anymore. No one told you that, Mr. Diamond.
And so we have to watch it again. We see the gut-wrenching scene where I don't think you ever see Julia. You only see him. I don't think you ever see Meryl's face.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And so it's his reaction and him telling her. And it basically just ends there. And they said, well, we're going to find out in a half hour. So they go back to Bob's cubicle.
Right.
And he gets a phone call. And the next thing you know, they're walking out to a tram, and Bob is handing him tickets.
Doesn't he say something like he reads the verdict like, so how's the food here? You're going back. He tells him he's going back, and it takes him to the tram that takes you back to Earth, evidently.
Yeah. So you see this elaborate thing of the buckle. It takes there's 3 clicks to put the buckle on him to keep him in the seat, and then this tram has like subway doors on it, so they close right in front of him, and they start to roll away. He's going back, and you can hear Julia off camera yelling his name, and then we see she's in a tram heading in us. They're both heading in the same. They're going the same way, but they're starting to veer off in opposite directions.
Right. She's screaming. They're both screaming each other's names. He's desperately trying to get to her.
The tram driver is screaming at him for being an idiot. And
sit down.
Somehow he gets out of the buckle and he pulls the doors apart, and then the outside of the tram is electrified, and it shocks him and it throws him off the tram, and then he almost gets hit by another tram.
Right, he's got to play Frogger between the trams to get to Julia's tram.
So he got there by getting hit by a bus, and he's about to leave there by getting hit by a bus. But he gets away from it, and he runs to her tram, and he jumps on the side, and he gets shocked by that one, but he somehow hangs on. He's trying to open the door, and it's the camera slowly pulls back, and now we're watching it from the hearing room, and Bob and Lena are standing there, and the judges are sitting there, and they're watching the whole thing. And Bob looks at Lena and he goes, "Brave enough for you?" And Lena nods, and the judges say, "Let him go." The doors open, and he gets in, and then kind of the Graduate style, you see the back of them as the bus heads off wherever.
Yes, everybody's on the tram clapping for them. It's very, very heroic. Yes, a nice happy ending.
Yes. Yeah. So that the movie got good reviews, but like I said before, it only made $16 million.
It wasn't bad, but
the
it's
American
not
Film
a blockbuster.
No, the American Film Institute named it to its 100 Years, 100 Laughs list as one of the best comedies of that 100 years.
Well earned, yeah.
And
still holds up very, very well. I mean, there's some stuff that's dated, but pretty good otherwise.
Albert, clearly, this is one of his favorite movies. He let them name his documentary, Defending My Life, which I guess just made sense because what he's doing.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved about that documentary was the explanation that when they were in high school, Carl Reiner was going on the Tonight Show.
Uh-huh.
And Albert wrote some jokes for him.
Yeah.
And he used one, and Johnny laughed.
Yeah.
And that was the most exciting, thing to that point. I mean, it would be. Can you imagine if,
Yeah.
you write a joke and it gets it gets dropped into conversation on the Tonight Show and gets a big laugh.
I think it was on that Tonight Show where Carl said the funniest person he's ever met is this high school kid.
Yeah.
He goes to school with my son. He was talking about Albert Brooks. Now, you got to wonder if you're Rob. You must be like, whoa, hey, what am I, chopped liver over here?
What am I, some kind of meathead? Not yet.
Yeah.
Give it a few years. You'll be meathead.
He told this isn't necessarily related to the movie in any way, but he tells us that we're talking about his high school years. Albert was telling the story where he evidently he lived up kind of on a hill, and the whatever the bus was on would drop him off at a corner, and then he would have to walk up to the hill to his house. And on this corner was a candy shop, and he stopped at the candy shop, and in there is Jonathan Winters. People don't know Jonathan Winters is a legendary impressionist, probably considered the best ever. And so he's just strikes up a conversation with Albert, and at some point they're having a good time. At some point, the teenage Albert, I guess, goes, "Do you want to go home with me?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And so they did not know each other. He didn't know his dad. You thought, well, maybe he knows his dad. Didn't know his dad. They took a cab up to his house, and again, he's in high school at the time, and he walks in the house, evidently with Jonathan Winters. He's like, "Hey, Mom, I'm here with Jonathan Winters." She's like, "Oh, okay." And I guess they sit down in the kitchen, and Jonathan Winters does like a 40-minute show for him and his mom in the kitchen. Just like one of the strangest things that can only happen in LA.
Crazy. One of the things I liked about the documentary was him talking about Johnny liked having him on Tonight Show because he wouldn't just do regular stand-up. He would come up with something different. And the example he gave was when he did The World's Worst Mime, which was the mime who never stopped talking.
Right.
And he goes out there and he starts to do it, and the audience doesn't know what to make of it.
Yes.
They just think he's not famous enough that they're like, "Oh, it's Albert Brooks. He's going to go do something." They just think it's like a really terrible mime.
Yeah.
But he said, and he goes, "I'm bombing. Things are going very badly." But all of a sudden you could hear Johnny laughing.
Yeah.
And, if you remember the Tonight Show, they would show Johnny sometimes while the comedian was on, and the lights were off. You could see just like Johnny's silhouette. So the audience could see Johnny, but they couldn't. And he said that gave the audience permission. Like, oh, this is supposed to be funny.
Yes.
And then they laughed.
Right. They needed that permission.
Yeah, because
otherwise
they didn't
they didn't know what was going on.
It's a bunch of tourists who are out there on vacation who got free tickets to the Night Show, and they think they're going to be rude to this awful mime.
Right. That's right.
When the whole idea is, no, he's making fun of, like, what if a mime never shut up? And that's what he was doing.
Idiot. And then his ventriloquist act is the most iconic, which they show in the documentary, which you can imagine he's the world's worst ventriloquist. But the best is they're dressed alike. They're in the exact same suit, just like the ventriloquist. The real ventriloquist would be dressed in the same outfit. He satirized them in that way.
Lorne Michaels wanted him to be on the original cast of Saturday Night Live.
That's right. That's revealed. Yeah, it was supposed to be the Albert Brooks show. He was supposed to be. They're going to build the show around him, Albert Brooks.
Yeah, the idea that the show was not going to have a permanent host was not the first idea.
Right, that was Albert's idea. Yeah. Evidently, he told Lorne, "No, make it a rotating host."
Yeah,
that's.
But instead, he promised he would do X amount of they weren't digital shorts. Nothing was digital, but he made movies. Right. He made short films, some of which are just amazing.
Yeah,
but he's not one of the not ready for primetime players.
Part of Saturday Night Live. Right.
Yeah, he's had a very interesting career in that he hasn't made a tremendous amount of movies.
Yeah.
But he's written and he wrote this, he directed this, he starred in this. He tended to do that. And his movies are written around him, and he's the main guy.
Yeah, and he talked about that like he's like, I couldn't get acting work, basically. And he's like, he's obviously had a famous father. His brother was, at that time in show business, so he had to do it himself. And his first movie, Real Life, there's a strange Chicago connection to that. In that, do you recall this from the documentary that it was financed by the then owner of the Chicago Bulls? Do you remember him talking about that?
No.
Yeah, I don't know who was the owner of the Bulls at that time, but he somehow financed. He didn't tell the story. You don't really get much into it. Like, I don't know how they made this connection with the guy who owned the Bulls. Why was it the owner of the Bulls of all people? But somehow he ended up.
Was it Dick Klein from Klein Tool? Because that's who originally owned the Bulls.
Well, let's see. When was?
Because Jerry kind of he was a minority investor. Lamar Hunt, for the longest time, owned more of the Bulls than Jerry Reinsdorf did, but Jerry was the chairman.
Right.
And he just started buying up people's shares. Right. Oh, he took over for good in 1985.
Yeah. So somehow, financing Albert's first movie, Real Life, starring Chuck Rowe.
Yeah. I mean, he had small parts in Private Benjamin. He played Yale Goodman. That was after Real Life. But yeah, Real Life, then Modern Romance.
Which that's one of my favorites. Modern Romance is great.
Lost in America, which is
one of the best.
So yeah, and then Broadcast News was a movie he didn't make, but he was in. Is a huge part of it. It's great. And then the next movie, but you see these big gaps. Like he didn't make a movie for 4 years after Broadcast News, and then it was Defending Your Life.
Right.
Yeah, he has a great line in the movie The Scout, where Brendan Fraser is like this pitching phenom that they find out of nowhere, and he can get him a contract with the Yankees, but Brendan's parents don't want him to sign, and they say something like, we want him to go to college. He's like, yeah, he could play for the Yankees. And they're like, well, he's like, the Yankees, the most famous, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle. Like, didn't Lou Gehrig die of some terrible disease? And Albert goes, well, he didn't catch it playing baseball. He might have caught it in college. And then Mother. With Debbie Reynolds.
Yep. Very much, he said in the screening I went to, that was very much inspired by his relationship with his
actual mother.
His mother, because his mother was in show business, and then kind of had to give up her career to raise the children, and that's exactly what happens with Debbie Reynolds' character in Mother. She was a writer, right? Which he discovers he didn't know she was a writer. Albert, his character didn't know his mother was a writer, and that she had these desires, and that was very much parallel with his own mother.
He has a great supporting role in Out of Sight, where he plays a rich guy in prison and who gets protection from guys who then find out he has diamonds in his safe in Detroit, and they're going to go rob it.
Yeah.
He was the voice of Marlin in Finding Nemo.
Of course.
He played the bad guy in Drive.
Right, Drive. I was trying to think of that. Yep. He played a pretty vicious, pretty evil bad guy. He did it pretty well.
Yeah. And then the second to last season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, he played himself.
Yes.
Which was a tribute, actually, to the fact that his brother, Funkhauser, had died.
Yep.
And they were going to say goodbye to Funkhauser, and they wanted him to be in and it turns out that he was a COVID hourder. That was the big reveal at the end. They open a closet in his house, and it's full of hand sanitizer and masks.
That's great.
Yeah, and the movie, like I said before, the movie kind of brought Rip Torn, who'd never been a huge star, but Rip was that guy with a completely unforgettable name.
Well, right, and I think he won an Oscar or was nominated for an Oscar.
Elmore Rule, Rip Torn Jr.
Mm-hmm.
His dad, Elmore Rule Torn Sr., went by Tiger. So they had Tiger and Rip.
Okay.
He was a guy. I somehow I knew who Rip Torn was. I didn't get his Rip Taylor very much.
Right.
A little different there. He wasn't throwing confetti in the air.
Yeah.
And then, but of course, once Larry Sanders, Artie's one of the great all-time TV characters.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Right. Which I'm sure there's no way he's getting Larry Sanders if not for this performance in Defending Your Life.
Yeah.
The characters are, even though they're pretty similar, and that really kind of brought him back from. Exile's the wrong word, but he was kind of silent in the years prior to Defending Your Life.
He was nominated for Cross Creek for best supporting actor. He won. He was nominated for best supporting actor in comedy by the Emmy 6 times, and he won once, 1996.
Okay.
He died in 2019. He was 88.
Yes.
He ages during Larry Sanders. I did a rewatch last fall.
Yeah.
And I mean, that show, Gary didn't take as big a gaps as some other people, but to do 6 seasons of that show, it took 8 or 9 years to do them. And he was getting old by the end.
Yeah.
All right. So if you could have played anyone in this movie, who would you have played?
And I forgot that we're going to do this. I'd go with Bob Diamond.
I would have played, what did we decide his name was? Frank? In the sushi restaurant? That would have been Frank. Yeah.
Great role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you make your living, Dan?
Advertising. What about yourself?
I made a lot of money in adult books.
Selling them?
No, reading them is, of course, selling. Were you from L.A.? You know those nightclubs out by the airport?
Those strip clubs?
I coined the phrase all nude.
What do you mean?
Well, that was mine. So I bought 2 of the clubs that were going under. They were only using the word nude. I put up totally all nude. Double business in a month. I gotta take a piss. You wanna go?
Yeah, the totally all new thing is great, but his delivery of at adult books, selling them? No, reading them.
Yeah, where's that guy's Academy Award? That guy was outstanding.
Yeah. Well, this is funny because I think I know who Trey Wilson would have played. Had Trey Wilson been in this? He actually kind of looks. He looks like Rip Torn, kind of. He basically he would have just been Bob. He would have been a much louder Bob.
Yeah.
He would have been more like Artie.
Yeah, there you go.
But maybe it wouldn't work. Although if Albert didn't want to star in his own movie, Trey would have been good as Daniel.
He would have.
He can do the put upon thing. Pretty good.
Yeah.
And we decided there was a hence the name of the movie. It was, or it wasn't. It was very close.
Very
early
close.
On.
Yes.
So anyway, it's a very good movie. If you're not familiar with the Albert Brooks oeuvre, you need to rectify that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that the movies you have to see, Modern Romance is very good. You have to see Lost in America. It's an all-time classic.
Yeah.
You have to see Broadcast News.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite all-time movies.
Yeah, me too.
Out of Sight, which you probably have seen, but if you haven't, you got to see that.
If you're talking your top 3 just Albert Brooks-driven movies, I would say Defending Your Life, Lost in America, and Modern Romance.
Yep.
You agree?
Yes. He was in an episode of Love America Style.
Oh, there you go.
In 1971, he played Chris Leacock, or 1971, he played Chris Leacock.
Okay.
And he also was in 2 episodes of The Odd Couple as Rudy. 1970.
Wow.
I don't know how he would have been very young.
Yeah.
He would have been 23 years old.
Wow.
Well, there you have it.
There we go.
That is Defending Your Life.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Many of us have herpes,